Hollow Knight Silksong is officially out and people are playing it, which is kind of crazy that those words are now true and I'm saying them out loud, but hey, that's pretty awesome. The game has also officially crashed the internet, I think that's also safe to say, and I mean that quite literally actually happened too. So let's get into the release, how people are saying the game is generational already, and how the game's release and its price and content might be a problem for the industry and expectations. Firstly, as seen here from Insider Gaming, Silksong has completely decimated its previous release in Hollow Knight when it comes to Steam player numbers. Hollow Knight actually hit a peak of almost 80,000 players right before Silksong released, and now with Silksong officially out, as seen here, the game has now hit over 400,000 concurrent players, which is, yeah, insane, I know. I haven't played Silksong just yet myself. I have bought the game already and it's downloaded, mostly because I have to edit this video and everything. But it's currently sitting on my PS5 and it's whispering to me like the Green Goblin mask as I work. So trust me, this video was hard to make, but for all the best reasons, of course. But like I said, Silksong has genuinely crashed the internet because in case you were trying to play the game day one, within those first few hours, you actually couldn't play it at all, as Eurogamer states here. You see, Silksong's fans, they kind of crashed the servers of Steam, Nintendo Switch, and more when Silksong finally actually released and was able to be bought. This then led to a ton of people making memes in agony as they waited for the various servers to come back up and start working again. Like this meme, which shows Hornet facing off against the first real boss of Silksong, the Steam error guys. Yeah, you see, the game crashed so hard on Steam due to the insane demand that people kept seeing the faces of Steam's error codes instead. Or this other one, where Silksong versus Steam is clearly not a fair fight at all, and crazy that an indie game has caused this much craziness so quickly. And here's Team Cherry celebrating the release of Silksong, with a roaring 72,000 likes right out of the gate. Yeah, this game is going to be huge, or I guess already is huge. It's probably already sold like 1 million copies, I would guess at least. Of course, now the servers are on, these platforms are fine, I guess, and the game is now being played by pretty much everyone, I would wager at this point at least. Which, hey, is great to see, but it's gotten even bigger than that actually, as seen here from Games Radar. On Twitch alone, Silksong has already beaten the peak viewer base of games like Grand Theft Auto 5 and even Dota 2 within minutes of being released. So how is this happening? How is a game about a cute bug fighting bugs in a bug kingdom able to defeat the AAA giants of the world like this? And also, if you enjoy the content, consider subscribing, liking the video, and everything else. It helps a lot, thank you. But I mean, the answer is pretty simple. It's because Team Cherry has created, which will likely be another generational 2D platformer that will not only be loved, but played for years to come. Even Games Radar admits that Hollow Knight is the best Metroidvania of all time. I mean, the list might be outdated in time if Silksong surpasses it, but the point still remains that the game is off to a roaring start because Hollow Knight is such a beloved modern classic. I would go as far as to say that Hollow Knight is the perfect fusion of Super Mario meets Dark Souls. Like I said in another Hollow Knight video, the game's controls, they just feel like a natural extension of how you would realistically react in a game like this. The jumping, the slashing and bouncing, it just makes sense. There's no real need to explain the mechanics. Because while simple, that's where the genius always lies in its ingenuity. Now my guess is once the dust settles a bit, say maybe a week from this video publishing and we get the real reviews and the numbered scores out there, I would wager that Silksong will hit the high 90s on Metacritic. I would be astonished if it didn't. And probably, and I'm theorizing here, but let's be real, I think Game of the Year this year is going to come down to 2 games. Claire Obscure Expedition 33 and Hollow Knight Silksong. I genuinely don't really see any other game surpassing these two in terms of their fandoms, their review scores, and then some. What's also crazy to me, however, is that if you were to buy both of these games at full price, you would still have money left over to buy yourself a snack, and even then, you still wouldn't have paid as much as it would cost to pretty much buy a full-price AAA video game these days. Think about it, Claire Obscure is $50 at launch, Silksong, by the way, is only $20. Yeah, you heard that right. This game costs about as much as a Call of Duty skin bundle to buy right now. which is likely another reason why so many people are playing it, because the barrier to entry is, well, it's quite literally almost next to nothing. The industry could probably learn a thing or two from Silksong, but I do doubt the industry will be adopting such a low price point no matter how good the game is. You see, the thing is that Silksong genuinely feels like it can't really exist. Its pricing makes really no sense when you compare it to other games. Yet the cost and team size of Team Cherry, which is ridiculously small, likely just released a game that will make millions of dollars regardless. Hollow Knight, as in the first game, has sold over 13 million units to date. Obviously, not all of that is at full price. But to keep it simple, let's just say that it was at full price, okay? Hollow Knight retailed for about $15. So that means roughly Hollow Knight made probably somewhere almost about $200 million or so, give or take. But either way, that's a lot of money for an indie 2D platformer to make. If Silksong were to sell the same amount of copies for $20, yeah, it's making even beyond that, which is kind of crazy for a game of this size. But it also proves that you don't need a team of 200 developers while also outsourcing your game to like India or China to make a good game these days. What you really need is just a passionate group, and sometimes that's enough. After all, Clair Obscur was made by ex-Ubisoft devs and junior hires. The core team of Clair Obscur was about 34 people, give or take I guess, although the claim that the game was only made by 30 or so people is technically false. Since once you factor in orchestras and the entire music team in general, plus the Korean devs who worked on animation, which was outsourced of course, the numbers do tend to balloon a bit. But even then, Clair Obscur was also a massive success and reviewed incredibly well. It was also $50 at release. And Silksong, like Hollow Knight however, was genuinely just made by pretty much just 3 guys. Like, the core team of Team Cherry is just 3 dudes: Ari Gibson, William Pellin, and Jack Vine. Beyond these 3 absolute mad lads, there were tasks that were given to a few other developers here or there for things like programming or testing. And of course, the composer is not technically part of the 3-man team, but Christopher Larkin did the music for both Hollow Knight and now Silksong too. So even if the team is maybe, I don't know, 10 people at best, maybe, it's still insane regardless due to the quality and roaring response that it's getting. It also paints another technical problem, which is that Silksong kind of just embarrassed the industry. As you're likely aware, game prices have been a big talking point in 2025, mostly because of Nintendo, which started pushing for $80 American being the baseline for new games on Nintendo Switch 2, which definitely sucks. For example, in Canada, where I live, you can get Mario Kart World brand new for the low price of only $110 before taxes. Wow, what a steal. That's only like, what, 5.5 copies of Silksong at release to play Mario Kart? How could this not be a great buy? Or Tears of the Kingdom on Switch 2 for the price of $114 Canadian before taxes. Wow, that's a lot of copies of Silksong after taxes for this one remaster of a game that just came out only a few years ago with slight improvements on Nintendo Switch 2. How could I not want to buy this? This is so pro-consumer, except not really at all. See, this is the problem. That companies have now tried to push their games for way more money than we're accustomed to and thought that they could get away with it. Remember, even Microsoft thought they could get away with $80 American, and they tried that with the Outer Worlds too. But then quickly realized that nobody was pre-ordering the games due to the comically high price for an Obsidian game no less. Then infamously, Microsoft, mere months after claiming that they would pull a Nintendo, then reverted back to $70 instead, claiming that they jumped the gun and they would price everything as it was before. You see, these companies think that you're dumb enough that you would want to pay these prices for their games. I don't care how good someone thinks Tears of the Kingdom is. The only thing that will be crying if I hit purchase on that game on a Nintendo Switch 2, that would be my wallet. Because why is a game costing $114 before taxes day 1 these days, and it's not even like a collector's edition or something? That's absurd to me. Why would I ever pay that? And clearly I'm not the only one who noticed how absurdly overpriced games are these days, and now with Silksong, it's becoming very obvious that something truly is rotten with how we price video games. And also, quick update, I refreshed Silksong on Steam and look at this, dude. Holy moly, it's at 535,000 players now. Sorry for the topic change there for a second, but I just wanted you to know that. Okay, now back to pricing again. So anyway, Eurogamer had this article: is Hollow Knight Silksong's cheap price a problem for other indie games? Devs and publishers weigh upon its impact. As Eurogamer shows, here's some users on Blue Sky complaining that Silksong is actually too cheap, and that they're threatening Team Cherry to buy more copies on multiple platforms just because they priced it too low. Which is probably a good problem to have, but the price of this game is clearly a talking point because in a year that has been full of overpriced slop, and remasters costing over $100 even, it comes to a point where this discussion kind of needs to be had. This brings me to one developer named RJ Lake, who worked on the game I Am the Beast as the composer and is now directing a rhythm-based game called Unbeatable. And they had some interesting things to say about Silksong's price. Silksong, honestly, should cost $40, and I'm not even joking. I won't go so far as to say it's bad, it doesn't, but it will have effects, and not all of those effects are good. Like, I am personally glad it's so cheap for me personally. It makes picking it up a no-brainer. The problem is that the gamer is a creature very bad at knowing why things cost what they do. So, let's stop there for a second and analyze what this RJ Lake is saying. So in his opinion, I think it's a he anyway, they believe that Silksong should cost double, give or take, what it costs now, because it will only set a bad precedent going forward with expectations. Because video games are becoming more expensive to develop overall, which is a big reason why so many studios and devs actually want to charge more money for their games, but due to the backlash, they reasonably can't. Well, unless they want to stay in the good graces of players anyways. But it's that second part where RJ says that the gamer, they mean you and me, are creatures who are very bad at knowing why things cost what they do. So what this RJ Lake means is they believe that we don't understand how much it costs to make games. Therefore, we wouldn't be able to understand. I mean, fair enough to a degree. Sure, the average player may not know the exact cost of, say, how much a change in a level costs, or how much that one room in that one level costs it to make and, decorate. That being said, as blunt as I can be, it's not really the player, or I guess we should say the customer's job, to know how much everything costed to get the product to them. What matters to them is the price, and whether the price that is being asked is worth what they're being given. Obvious example, I look at Mario Kart World, and knowing that I would need to shell out $110 Canadian, that makes me never want to buy the game on principle alone. I frankly could care less what went into making it, because no matter how much money they spent designing the levels or the sound effects, at the end of the day, that game is still $110. This is why I always think going down the pity party route with things like this always backfires. It won't make people sympathize with you or want to buy your product because you said it cost X amount of money to make it. Because the reality is that everyone is dealing with the price of things all of the time. How much the food costs, the rent, the diapers if you have a baby, and so on. It's not really the consumer's job to do the job or marketing for you. It's the people who make the thing that have to do that. And if you can't get people to buy something that you made for the price that you're asking, maybe it's too expensive then, but RJ Lake had more to say. Millions of people will probably buy Silksong on day one, and it was a game that had a very low budget. Because the budget is these developers worked on it without direct pay for however long they wanted to do that. It had a these developers are independently wealthy budget of effectively $0. I see. So RJ Lake is saying that Silksong is an anomaly amongst other games, which is true to a degree. Because Silksong, unlike many other games, was not made with, say, a finalized budget in mind, if you will. Team Cherry took their time making the game because they could afford to do that. They made millions of dollars off Hollow Knight. And technically speaking, the money made on that first game was likely enough that these guys would probably never have to work ever again if they wanted to. Which also just means that they made Silksong not because they needed the money, but because they wanted to make something special. Which means that it was a labor of love that was made for the love of the game, if you will, and not to hit the business quotas. This does put Team Cherry in a unique position, not afforded to most developers. I know that. RJ Lake is 100% right in that assumption. But then he continues. They can price however low they want as a result. Their return on investment is infinite no matter what they do. But by charging such a low amount, they are causing lizard brain signals to fire off saying this kind of game is worth $20. You should expect this game for $20. There it is, guys. We're witnessing yet another Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3 situation on our hands again, where developers like RJ here are already claiming that just cause Silksong is $20 and is that good that players out there should not be expecting such content and polish for such a low price across the board in the future. Which, I mean, I don't think people really are. Clearly based on the reaction to its price, and like I showed, people quite literally are threatening, Team Cherry to buy more copies because Team Cherry is too cheap for their own good. It's not really an industry-wide thing, but a Team Cherry thing uniquely. And while I also don't think people will expect any game that is $20 or so to be of Silksong quality, the reality is also that what games like Silksong or Clair Obscur prove is that the games that are selling the best, that are reviewing insanely well and are garnering love both industry and fan-wide, are not really the games that are asking you to pay them $70 plus for every release. Like, think about it. How many times have you bought a game on a sale that was maybe 50% or more off, and you play it and you're like, oh wow, this was fun? But be real with yourself. Was the game more enjoyable because you spend less on it? Likely yes. It just feels better to play something when it doesn't cost you a fortune to buy into it. Silksong smartly plays to both of these groups. The first being the day one adopters, and secondly, the people who can, wait years for prices to drop. By the game being $20 outright, everyone just kind of goes, oh, that's nothing to play. And then boom, sales explode. While I do understand where RJ Lake is coming from, that it's frustrating maybe to see a game so cheap sell so well and thinking that it will backfire, the better question you should be asking yourself as a developer is, how can I make something that is so good to play that people will feel like you're underselling yourselves to them when they buy it? Okay, I'll give you an example that isn't Holden, okay? Let's look at No Man's Sky, right? How many times online have you seen people beg Sean Murray, who runs Hello Games, to give players a way to support Hello Games more? Because No Man's Sky has tons of free updates at this point. That goodwill explodes and gives you even more people jumping in. After all, recently, No Man's Sky hit its highest player count on Steam because of this very same reason. I'm not even kidding. Look at this from Eurogamer. The newest update, Voyagers, for No Man's Sky made the player base just explode. They just exploded, dude. Exploded. And again, the game has all these free updates besides buying the base game. So No Man's Sky, like Silksong and Clair Obscur, these are all examples of where the quality of the experience is so good that it twists the lizard brains, as RJ Lake would call players, into believing that they are getting a deal no matter what they pay because the game that they're getting is so good. But then the problem, however, then backfires the other way if the games being made are not of a good quality or keep releasing, as many games, especially in AAA, do, as broken, unfinished messes that also demand full price despite their middling performances. To take a game like Silksong, okay, which is devoid of any political or any of that kind of the nonsense, and instead just making a game that is fun to play, and then somehow look at it in a negative light is kind of crazy to me. You should be celebrating that this game is bringing attention to the indie scene, not running in fear of it. Also, it's weird that RJ Lake continues, as seen here, to refer to players as lizard brains not once but multiple times again in his Blue Sky rant. This guy, girl, they, them, whatever, clearly doesn't seem to like players or consumers that much. I mean, why is that? It's not a good look for their games or anything like that if you're both complaining that a game that is likely going to be superior to your own has now released, but will also be cheaper than yours and will sell more, but your bright-eyed idea now is to call consumers lizard brains. I don't know, man, but it sounds like to me, it's just sounding like jealousy, like you're kind of angry that Silksong exists simply because you didn't make it or can profit from it yourself. Is it not a good thing that we have such great games going against the trend of being more expensive for expensive's sake? All this makes me feel is I wouldn't want to support you either way if you're casually referring to your consumer base as subhuman so often like this also publicly. It just kind of comes off to me that despite working in games, you don't seem to like your consumer base, but you attract the kinds of people based on what you make. So what does that really say about your art then? Maybe something to think about, RJ, but either way, I don't hate this person, don't bully them or anything. I just found their comments to be, well, very out of touch is all, if I could say that, I guess. But I think the right way to go about this was how this sole developer that's behind this other game called Lone Fungus went about it. They said via Twitter about Silksong, as a developer making a smaller Metroidvania than Silksong, which I originally thought would be fairly priced at $20 USD, what should I price it now? It'll be a 10 to 15 plus hour game, but it was made by one person with limited dev time and funds. I can't afford to give it away for free. So unlike RJ, this Lone Fungus dev, and here's their game on screen by the way, is a charming 2D platformer, where you play a cute mushroom guy fighting its way through a kingdom, but as seen here from another user who would reply, Dude, charge $20. Price is not about the game, it's about context. They are able to price $20 for a bigger game because they stem to receive I think that's what they said, a million times the cost. You are a small company, dude, charge $20, you deserve that. I think what this user said is important here because I think they're right. It really isn't about the price of the game with indies especially, but it really is the context behind it. What really matters is that no matter what the price is of your game, that you're respectful to your audience. Team Cherry is a shining example of that. Hello Games is also this with No Man's Sky now. These developers, and even with AAA ones who get tons of support like Larian Studios with Baldur's Gate 3, or say even From Software whenever they release a game like Elden Ring and more, these sorts of development studios can charge anything they really want. Because the context is there. The quality is assured through years of proving to consumers that don't worry guys, no matter what we make as From Software, or Team Cherry in this case, the game will be good because of our proven track record. That's what's important, not to attack your fans and say, oh, you guys just don't understand how games are made. It's kind of ridiculous. Because let's be real, social media can lift or kill your game based on reception alone. It is never a good idea to attack your consumer base, but I've been saying that for years now, but sadly it still rings true. Silksong is able to achieve what it has because of trust between the developer and the player. Yeah, the price is a factor, sure, but I think Team Cherry could have easily charged $40 for Silksong and it still would have been a hit regardless. Because the product means something to people, okay? They have a connection to it. Hollow Knight as a fan base is large and very much alive. They love that game and the series. Good for them, because it's a great franchise. I beat Hollow Knight myself years ago. I thought it was amazing. And I'm sure like you, I also have certain development studios or publishers where I buy their games all the time because I trust them. And then there are other studios or publishers where I don't really buy their games either because they attack their fans, or maybe they push nonsense, or they release broken games all the time. It just comes down to trust, right? Like look at CD Projekt Red when they betrayed that years of trust with Cyberpunk's initial release. People were willing to honestly spend anything to play Cyberpunk at the time when it released, but by releasing a broken product, it hampered that goodwill. And that is worse than anything else. Sure, they fixed the problem mostly now with updates and such, but it just proves the point that they still had to fix their fall from grace, so to speak, through more years of hard work, which they wouldn't have to if they released it, great to begin with. But I guess what's done is done. But besides attacking Team Cherry, that does nothing anyways. You should instead be more alarmed at how expensive Call of Duty or something is and how much they're charging for weapon skin bundles and what a 3-man team in Australia is doing, making a game about a bug with like a needle as a weapon. This is why it's so important to support the Hollow Knights and the Clair Obscurs of the industry. Because these games need to be propped up, not for ideology's sake, but to prove a point that by making these games a success, the kinds of games that are devoid of microtransactions and political jargon or buggy, messy launches, you're telling the industry at large through sales and reviews and fandom that this is what you want more of. You don't want more corporatized slop where you can play Nicki Minaj and Call of Duty. You want games with soul, with heart, and most importantly at all, you want games that have trust built into that link between you as a player and the developers who make these amazing experiences. Let's be real, there really is no trust with Call of Duty or some other slop AAA game. They release these games broken all of the time and they never fix them. That is why there is so much discourse on that side over there. I truly do hope that Silksong and Clair Obscur get nominated for Game of the Year. And I also hope whichever game wins the ultimate prized award this year, that it proves that what the industry and more importantly what the player wants are not overpriced celebrity simulator games with weapon bundles and terrible performing games that cost an arm and a leg to buy, or games trying to force you to spend $114 for a remaster of a game that just came out. Instead, what people really truly want is a return to basics, a return to when games were just video games. There was no talking down, there was no super expensive graphics that stutter because it was made in Unreal Engine 5 and was not optimized for release to hit a release window. No, what people want are games that are made with soul, like I said, with the best interest of the players who buy and live and breathe these experiences, and not the guys in the suits that are sitting in some boardroom saying, we need more bundles because I want to buy like 3 more yachts this year. Video games are amazing because they allow you to be transported to unforgettable worlds where all of the real-life nonsense can be left behind. And right now, where 500 plus people on Steam alone are currently running through a kingdom of cute bugs, playing another cute bug in a red cloak with a needle proves more than anything that people just want to be excited and respected again when it comes to their devotion to a video game. And I think Silksong proves this more than anything else. So I hope you enjoy Silksong. I hope you play it and you love it for everything that it's worth. And I hope that you return to it, later on when new free DLC updates inevitably come out. Hell, I hope the Knight and Hornet both join Super Smash Bros. One day as playable heroes even. I just hope that you enjoy video games and scratch that lizard part of your brain, as RJ Lakewood put it, when you play something that reminds you of what you used to love about video games in the first place. And when I look at Silksong, to be honest with you, it's kind of everything that I want from a video game right now, just pure fun, with no weirdos breathing down my neck or online shops demanding me to open my wallet to keep playing it. There's something beautiful about that, and Silksong should be celebrated, not hated. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thank you as always for watching, subscribe, and see you next time.